Thank you.
A bunch of crap with that.
For mine too. Okay. We ready?
You're on.
In case I need these to All right, good morning, folks, and muffins. It's always been a joke. I'm here to speak about umpiring, what to wear, how to do it, just a little bit of everything. I've been involved in vintage baseball since 1991. Mostly as a player, but lately as an umpire because in the South I'm the only one who knows the rules. I am currently helping Wytheville, Virginia with their team. We're having a tournament in June, Father's Day weekend during a hot air balloon festival.
You had to find it one time.
That's pet peeve number one. Phones on the benches. I learned a lot playing for Don Anderson. He was my captain for 5 years with the Muffins. We had our pet peeves. Back then, it wasn't necessarily phones, it was sunglasses, black shoes that weren't painted completely black, cameras on the benches, water bottles on the benches. Those are still my pet peeves. And also, I'll tell the players before the game, I'm going to miss calls. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do it for both teams. So there's no reason to get mad. I says, I'm going to be terrible for both of them. Okay, I'm going to stand over here. Can you see me over there?
Just tell me.
Okay, part one, adequate. And you'll see people you might know on here. One, be heard. Sometimes we don't have a microphone. You have to yell. At the beginning of the game, striker to the line. If there's a foul, foul! Some people are louder than I. I try my best. Speak loudly, speak clearly, know your audience, and rehearse. When I rehearse, I forget what I've done. So, but on occasion, I have to speak or umpire in a stadium. They provide a microphone usually. I don't like using microphones because it's not period correct. But if I don't, the fans can't hear us, and I like to answer questions in between innings. Keep your eye on the ball. Defend your calls, work with players, make it fun. Like I said, I'm not going to make every call correctly, but number one rule was the only call you really have to make is a foul call. The players should know if they're safe or out. If they have an argument, you call the captains over to you and say, captains, could you ask your players whether he was safe or out? And if it's still an argument, I ask the spectators, okay, was he out or safe? And I know safe's not the correct word. Criticize me, I don't care. I'm not going to be 100% correct on this. Everybody has their ways to do things. Everybody's learned differently. But as I said last night, everything is up for interpretation. what part of the country you are. They didn't have email or Pony Express back then that, hey, we changed this rule last night, you need to play it this way. The rules, as I see it, are up to interpretation to the ball club, because you had different like no different different vocabularies. Thank you. And I apologize if I blink out every once in a while. But you have different vocabularies around the country. So one word might mean 4 different things from Minnesota down to North Carolina. And as I interpreted things that came down from New York to North Carolina, I was learning that people were doing things differently. I try to correct things as much as I can, but we have to have willing participants, just like the black shoes. Be organized. Evidently, I'm not that organized. Michelle is. That's why I keep her around. Make a list, have a routine, be on time, ask for help. A list of what you need to do on the field. Make your chalk lines or flower lines across home and the pitcher's point. If you have flags to mark the outfield lines so you don't line the entire field. I know it wasn't done. Be on time, meaning let's get this game started. No use lollygagging. Yes, I'm from the South. We use lollygag. Stay involved. Head on the swivel. I love that photo, by the way.
The ball is actually over his right shoulder.
If you make bad calls, keep the game moving. But sometimes we're an entertainment entity. Like if you're playing in a stadium, the fans came to see a game and have fun. Sometimes you gotta slow the game down. I know it's not correct to do all the time, but you gotta keep the fans involved. And while I'm saying this, anybody that wants to interrupt me and give me their opinion, bring it on. You're not going to upset me. I'm looking at you.
I know you are. I'm not here for that, Eric. I'm not here to criticize you. I'm not going to do it.
And Jeff, I'm not going to regret you being in here, right? I've been waiting on that.
The man pulled a bat one time.
How to dress the part. As you can see, we have different attires. On cooler days, I wear a frock coat. Michelle has made most of my shirts and one of the vests. But I keep a plethora of clothing and hats so I can dress the part for different occasions. Like if I'm umpiring at a farm, you use something like this. If you're in a stadium, maybe something like this or like this. And even the shoes, I tried to get very correct shoes. I'm not going to lift my legs, I'll fall down. The soles are actually what you can still get them at Clark's and Bass and a couple other places. They're not that expensive. You spend more on a pair of sneakers. Oh yeah, we got different trousers. We have wool and some synthetic blends. I actually went to a textile historian in North Carolina. He was a historian for Wrangler for 5 years. And he has a huge collection that would fill this room. He pulled out some shirts. Are we there yet? Okay. Pulled out some shirts from the 1860s that they're still intact. That I would have worn that day. But he showed me different patterns and said, you know, I was questioning some of the clothes that we were wearing, and he says, no, that's correct. He says, you're doing it right. So everything you see me wearing is period correct. And that's another pet peeve of mine. If somebody shows up wearing a thrift store tuxedo jacket with tails, that's made of polyester, he needs to take that off. I'm not going to allow him on my field. Same way with, you know, sunglasses or wristwatches. They didn't exist. Well, sunglasses did exist, but players didn't wear them. Front coat, I have. Scoot up. So, nice frock coat. You can get these from Historical Emporium, and I'm sure a couple other places. But if you're looking for clothing, go to Historical Emporium. I ordered that on a Friday, got it on Monday. They're very quick, and I love their items. Go to Sutlers. Civil War Sutlers, they usually have Civil War or civilian clothing. The ties, you know, just a string tie or a cravat, that works. Bow tie. The hats, you know, derbies. What's that? Top hat. Thank you. And then straw hats. Even the straw hat derby. We even have other items I use. A lot of the muffins will recognize this. It's not Richard's, but you know, hide your alcohol in there. That's always been a gag with
No
the
wonder why the
muffins.
calls were so bad.
It was medicine, sir.
It was medicine.
When he said it earlier, it was
No, that's the other case.
all right.
I tried to have everything period correct so that the spectators coming for the first time will want to come back. And it's not always about the players on the field, but it's not about the umpire either. It's the presentation helps with them wanting to come back. So you put on a good show, they'll remember it. You put on a terrible show, they'll remember it, but they won't come back. Where am I? Okay. Here's the, I don't know if y'all can see this. This is actual fabric from the Civil War era.
Wow.
So if y'all can find something close to that and wear that as a shirt, as an umpire, go for it. Put it with a solid vest. Somebody might say, "Oh, that's from the '70s." That's actually from the 1860s. The linen suits, those are popular as a full suit during the summer. The Historical Emporium carries that. That's actually from the Civil War time period, as well as the wool. The historian was nice enough to let me go in there and take pictures of different items. answered questions, and he might be a speaker in the next 2 years at one of these events. Okay, so how to dress the field. Hello, field. Home plate, the base. We're responsible for making sure the bases and the plates are in the right positions. 90-foot bases, 12-inch bases. Is that correct? And 12-inch round plate, preferably out of steel. That's what I use. And like I said, use flour to line the pitcher's point and the home plate. Bench area, keep it clean. I hate going to a field and seeing orangey glue, plastic water bottles, telephones, gym bags. Have a wooden crate somewhere, or just put it off to the side about 10-15 yards from the field so that spectators don't see it. You want everything to look as correct as possible. I know Big Bat used to keep a black Sharpie or a black marker in his kit. So if we showed up with new shoes and they had the white Nike swoop on them, by the end of the day, they weren't white anymore. He made us do that before the game, before we took the field. Sunglasses, I actually told couple of my players in Withville, first time I saw them, I says, "Those prescription?" "Yes." He says, "You have an extra pair of regular glasses?" They says, "Yes." I says, "Change them." "Well, it's sunny out." I says, "Okay." I says, "You come up to the plate with those glasses on, I'm going to call foul tip, striker's dead." "Well, if I don't swing the bat?" I says, "Well, remember, the umpire's blind too." I says, "But I can hear pretty well." He went and changed his glasses right then, and it was never an issue again. Whether that's correct or not, who knows? I mean, they didn't wear sunglasses back then, so I can make up rules too. They don't know it. Know where the foul lines are. I showed up a field and somebody had done the foul line, but it was like this red line on the carpet. It was going in different directions, and I'm like, ignore the foul lines. I'll make the calls. Does anybody have any questions so far? I feel like I'm rambling. And yes, Doug.
Red, and maybe you're going to cover this as you go on. Do you stand? I've been away from the game a little bit, basically for a while. Do you stand off to the? If you're standing at home plate, do you stand off to the right, sort of?
Yes, unless it's a left-handed batter, then I switch to the third base line.
Because you don't call balls and strikes,
right.
Of course. So that's where you say. Do you think it's okay to move around some?
Yes, I'll move from the right side to the left side depending on the batter. And I also use my trusty stool when my legs get tired.
Yeah.
So
that's smart.
I just have to stay out of the way. We also have a tally keeper. We have a proper table set up. We got that from a Civil War reenactor. So it folds up. Yeah, that's the tallest one I could find. I heard you, Don. Always educate. I mean, if we don't educate, the players aren't going to get better. The spectators won't come back. And teams won't want to come to your field anymore because they don't do it right. I didn't like their field. I didn't, they think they're a 20th century team. Stuff like that. We want to do it right. We want to educate everybody. Finding players. We used to do this as a gag. And it also gets the spectators involved. Whether it was correct or not, I'm looking at you again.
I'm a spectator here.
It makes it fun for the spectators because, especially if the game's gone too quick, you can explain why they were fined. You know, sir, why did you spat upon my field? You know, stuff like that. You know, no cussing, no swearing, no spitting. And that's, you know, what we learned back in the 90s. Like I said, we didn't have the research we have today. Readily accessible. So we did what we did, and even the tally bell, you know, there's teams that still like to use the tally bell. There's teams that didn't happen. I'm sure there's a lot of things that went on that they wasn't uniform across the country. Just like if, I'm going to use the word huzzah. How do we know huzzah, if it wasn't used in Minnesota, how we know it wasn't used in North Carolina during the Civil War? I mean, you have people from different ethnicities all over the country just coming over from wherever they came from. How do we know what was said? And, you know, not every word spoken was written down. That's part of the education part of it. So just like pop, soda, Pepsi, Coke. You know, if you go up to Ohio, well, we're in Ohio, it's pop, right? In North Carolina, it's soda. New York,
Soda.
soda. There's soda pop. There's, you know, I want a Coke, you know, stuff like that. So just be open-minded, but if you can research it, if you can find the written word somewhere, don't stop at just one. Find it 2 or 3 places. That way, hey, I found it, I'm done. Right? That's not research, in my opinion. Didn't I just do that? Now, my team captain down in Durham, during our Durham athletic park game, we were, the guy running the field came down and said, "You guys gotta slow down. You're going too fast." I mean, we're at an hour and we're in the 7th inning. So, and I know this isn't correct, but it slowed the game down, and the spectators loved it. The manager and I got in an argument where I fined him some money. We weren't arguing, we were just speaking loudly. They couldn't hear us, and we just were making gestures. But sometimes you have to slow the game down. I'm not saying that it's correct, but once again, you're entertaining, and you know, you have to do some things that you normally wouldn't do, especially in a stadium. You want to be as correct as possible, but you want to make it entertaining. I remember Richard Short. I used to be the catcher for the Muffins, and if the game was out of hand, I'd get a foul tick. He goes, "No tick, strike one." I'd look at him. Yeah, he knew he was getting me mad, and he'd be back there giggling. So, get another one. "No tick, strike 2. I caught the ball. He's just giggling. And I knew what he was doing, but, you know, that was Richard. And, you know, oh, the cane. Y'all, I already did the cane, didn't I?
Eric, may I?
Yes.
I'm gonna agree with you very strongly, because
Somebody writing this down.
one of the things, one of the main parts of our mission statement is to educate. And if you bore them and they leave, you
They're
can't
not coming
educate.
back.
So there's nothing wrong with a little entertainment,
Okay.
even if it isn't correct. I'm not arguing that point at all. I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly.
We got this on tape.
Don't tell some of the other customs companies that, please.
Hold the presses.
So if I get kicked off the Rules and Customs Committee, I don't know why.
And I'm sure there's gentlemen out there that umpire the games as well, and they might do a better job than I. I'm still learning, and some of you know I had an accident 2 years ago. I've forgotten some of the stuff that I've known. So, bear with us. I try to educate myself as much as I can. Michelle, she helps me. She remembers more than I do some of the times. So, and she's only been around the game for about 13 years. So, but she remembers. Where are we at? Oh yes, some of the umpires. We got Dirty Pirate from New York. Me, of course. Dirt from New York. The Mutuals umpires. See no evil, hear no evil, know no evil. Skip Nipper from Tennessee. I don't know where Gentleman Jim's from. Do any of you recognize him?
It's Hobart.
Brothers.
Okay.
He's a grinder.
Oh, okay, so he's well. Then we have Rich in his linen white suit. Scrap Iron and myself. Grumpy, are you here?
No.
I think, there he is.
Grumpy.
See, we got your better side.
Yeah.
And some of these photos was taken from, by Dennis Toto up at Gettysburg. He's actually from where I live now in North Carolina. So we exchange barbecue ideas. We got Kevin Garland and the loudest umpire I ever heard, Chip Deerfoot Moore with the Muffins. I mean, you can hear him half a mile away. I think.
But I mean, he's right. You can just hear it.
You can hear it. I never said Chip's right or sober. Yes, sir.
I got a question, going back to the tally bell,
Yes.
but is there anywhere where a team, when they scored a run, would have to go to the scorekeeper and raise their hand or anything like that? Is that why it kind of slowly did away with the tally?
From what I understand, nothing has been found on the tally bell or reporting to the tally keeper.
But, and I also see that, even though it's almost like you and Mr. Diekman was talking there, part of an entertainment, the crowd. I think the crowd always enjoyed that when we did that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's a big deal, but maybe that's too much because it's not historically accurate, you know, for what's been found.
Customs.
Yeah, I leave that to the home field.
People would always get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I mean, we enjoyed doing it, and either the louder you rang it, the better.
Yes, these are historically reproduced. Now, you project.
I don't push the tally bell down in the south, but if somebody wants to use it, they can. I mean, it's no different than banging a drum at an Indians game.
That's a great
So now I'll do that
comparison.
anymore.
Some of us ballists like it because we don't get to ring it very often.
Yes,
By the way.
it's a treat.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
While you're pounding the tally bell subject into the ground, I'll add one thing to it. I think it became a big deal when someone's score wasn't tallied because it wasn't ranked. If that wouldn't have been the case, you could have rang the bells from now till kingdom come. But the time that somebody didn't score, or the
Because
score
they
was
didn't.
not changed on the board because of it, was probably when it became an issue. Prior to that, nobody really gave a darn.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's,
Go ahead, Doug.
Doug was there.
I wasn't, well, somewhat, but I wasn't there when the muffins were started. But, you know, I mean, people have different views on this, but the muffins did some things wrong, you know, and then it did spread, especially with the Ohio Club. So, but the tally bell is something unique. No, I don't think anybody wants to push it on anybody else anymore. I hope not. But, you know, recognize that, I mean, there were more than, it wasn't as easy as the 33 rules of baseball, I guess.
Right.
Isn't some part of it not what you're portraying? Are you portraying a village team, or are you portraying the extras? You know, which, you know what I mean, as far as, you know.
Well,
what you're
I've been called a reenactor. We don't reenact games. We're more historians. We're more just period ballists. And I won't tell somebody, no, you can't use the tally bell. If you want to use it, use it.
Well, it's up to the home field,
It's
right?
up to the home field.
Yeah,
We have ground rules for each field we go to.
That's true. It's done every minute.
No. No.
They were not using the
No.
tally bell.
Michelle just asked if Wytheville was using it before I arrived. And the answer is no. But they were also using, what, 75-foot bases?
Talk about how you became involved.
Gary actually called me and says, there's a team in Wytheville, they need your help. Would you mind going up there, talking to them for a little bit, and try to get them set in the right path? So,
I think I did, what, 3 years?
yeah, they've been there for
So
3
they were a
years.
new
Chris
team.
Burton
Yeah.
was actually on the team. He had just left the team when I got there. For those that don't know Chris, he was a clodbuster. And he's back up here in Ohio again. So I don't know who he's gonna show up and play for next, but, yeah, they were 75-foot bases, sunglasses, bright shoes, Fitbits, all that.
They were a mess.
So, and they were playing on Thursday nights. So, I'm like, okay, we gotta change this. So, they had a game on a weekend, and Michelle was there, and they, I was doing my spiel, doing everything. The director of museums came up to me. She says, "You're the missing piece." She says, "We were a mess." She says, "I see us going places now." So
That was because they didn't have an umpire.
they didn't have an umpire. Nobody knew the rules as well as I did. I'm not saying I know all the rules. I'll make mistakes, but it's
It was that education piece that.
it's the education piece. And she came to me and says, "Do you need a microphone?" I said, "Can you hear me?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't need a microphone." I'm changing that after being hoarse for 4 months.
Yeah. You know, Eric, as I've met, I mean, the spirit of what you're talking about, I love this because even talking to you, the umpire is so important to bring so much out and the education, but yet really, like you say, let the game play. And sometimes the umpires are always trying to interject so much, but your attitude, watch it. The body language of the players, they will manage the game. When there's discrepancy, you come in, call the foul, but you don't have to interject all the time. Make sure the base pass the field is set up like you've done, and bring that education is so good. I think that a lot of times we get caught up in different things, but the spirit, what we're trying to do is the spirit of the game. We remember back then, they talked about the banquets. We don't always do that, and maybe a tally bell, let's say, but the thing is that if you're playing by the rules, and then if there's a special game, you want to do something fun, I don't have a big problem with that, but let's make sure we don't say that was a rule. But even there's other things that we could do. We look at what the rules are, and if somebody's straying, we try to bring them back. So the umpire has a big place, but they're more quiet in a strong way. And like you were the missing piece with that team, and a good umpire is just going to bring that fortitude there. That's what I've been hearing you say from yesterday, today, and then what you're talking here. And I love it. More people like that. I know Grumpy has always been a good umpire when I've seen him. He doesn't always call my pitch is as good as I want. More strikes, please.
I'd
The
like to
interaction
piggyback
too,
on that.
Eric.
One of the
The interaction,
Yes.
along with what you're saying there, but the interaction between the innings when the teams are coming in and out. I know Ed does, I've seen Ed do this, Don, Richard was a master at it. Work the crowd in between the innings. That's so important, to keep people focused and explain to them, what happened, at a certain play. Good umpires will do that. They'll interact with the crowd in between the innings. Ed, Don, Richard would do that. He was a master at it.
And something growing up as a Muffin, we were instructed to work the crowd. If we're not playing, work the crowd. Take a ball and a bat with you. Explain playing to the spectators. It's not necessarily the umpire's job, but if he can't do it on a constant basis, get somebody that's not playing, that's in uniform, get them involved, and make sure they're educated as well.
So I gotta add on to this too, since I'm fairly new to this whole situation.
Can everybody hear Michelle?
Since I'm fairly new to this whole situation and I've only been involved in, like Eric says, about 13 years, I had the privilege of first seeing vintage baseball from teams that were seasoned. So now I'm seeing a team that's in its infancy, and I shudder sometimes when they do things because I've seen the way other teams and the way other umpires conduct themselves. So, Eric's letting them make mistakes, and I think that's part of the education process. We played at their homestead, and they never decided if a ball goes over the barn, is it in play or is it not? He let it happen. I think that is what his point is he's, educating the public, educating the spectators, but educating the team itself, especially one, because most of you folks have been involved with vintage baseball for decades. So, it's when you have a new team in its infancy, you need to have someone that has the background that can go ahead and push them in the right direction, but let them make the mistakes. Let them figure out, we didn't take that into account. They're used to playing in an open field. Well, now you've got obstructions, you've got trees, you've got barns, you've got buildings.
And creeks.
And creeks.
We have a creek running down the third base line and the first base line.
So, how do they deal with things like that? That's like what he was saying too on the fly, with it being in different areas of the country. Everybody had to adapt the rules to the area and the time and the location that they were playing. So it's kind of interesting to see that from an outside perspective, since I'm a newbie at this in consideration the number of years that are sitting in this room involved in vintage baseball. So it's interesting to see a team in its infancy finding its own footing. So, and the umpire is the integral part, and that's what Eric was trying to get, and that's what not only has it been the director of the museum, but the mayor of the town of Whitfield has said the same thing. This was the missing piece. They needed someone to be a guide to that, and that's what I think umpires need to keep in mind. You're a guide. You may not think you have an integral part in the game, but you are critical to how the game runs.
And Michael came to me, Michael Gilman, who's in charge of the baseball program, he came to me last year, can you help me schedule the tournament? I said, sure. Hey, can you help me get teams throughout the year? Sure. Can you schedule all this for me? Sure. But, if I didn't have the core connections I have in this room, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. I've reached out to Jim Tootle, John Thorne, a couple others. Hey, I don't remember how to do this. Can you point me in the right direction? I forgot this rule. How did we do it? Stuff like this. And I can reach out to anybody in this room, and they're going to point me in the right direction. It might be a 20-minute argument with Bill, but
I'm thinking of those other guys over here.
am I going to regret this?
Yeah.
What's that?
Am I gonna regret this?
No, yeah,
Okay.
maybe. No, yeah, maybe. So, did you cover, like, one thing is with the game, guys, is that we've got a lot of good umpires, but yet everybody's got a little different definition of what's a strike or a ball. And I asked you yesterday, and I was fine. I just wanted to know. And if I've gone around pitching, all of a sudden I think, well, I know what's going to be a ball or strike, and then it's like, what? And then the umpire will say, oh, so it should be cleared before games, really what it is. We have some wide-ranging things, more than we ever talk about, and more than we ever know. But when a batter is up there and the ball comes in, what's a strike, what's a ball? And if you really start to ask people, holy cow, there's some wild things that I never knew. I was kind of surprised, even last year. But anyhow, like his strike zone, I thought was very good. It's got some differences, what I thought, but I was fine with that. And then this one and that one. So that really needs to be cleared up before you get to the games.
Right, and if we call balls and strikes.
If you do.
You guys call balls?
Well, I mean, depends what part of the country you're in.
1860 rules, you swing and miss, it's a strike.
Yeah. So it's,
No balls.
No balls.
well, it depends on what year you're playing as well.
I just said 1860.
Yeah. I've played 1886, I've played 1860, 1864, 1865, up through 1869. I even taught 1835 town ball rules. So, talk about it completely different. It's fun, but you know. Where are we at? Here I am. Okay. I always do, when I speak about umpiring, I think of Rich Shirt. Anytime I get dressed as an umpire, I think of Rich Shirt. He always had his maker's mark in his cane. He was always dressed to the nines. One time I says, hey Rich, I think it was in the hundreds. He says, I'm thirsty. I'm back there catching. He goes, trade me places. He hands me his cane. He gets back to catch the ball. I have his cane, taking a drink out of it, and we trade back. That was Rich. I tried to do that as well. I carried two of them. For those that haven't seen this, you die of thirst before you get to it.
Well, that's a big one.
There you go.
There's 5 in here. Yes.
He's ready for
And you can get these at Historical Emporium as well. They're not expensive, but you know, when Tennessee came down to Durham, I played to the audience, took a drink, and the next thing I know, Uncle Jesse's sitting beside me, or standing beside me. I says, what do you want? He says, I'm thirsty. Next thing I know, there's another guy. What do you want? I'm thirsty. So, you know, it's good entertainment, and the you know, the players love it, spectators love it, and I feel pretty good at the end of the day. Is that it? Anybody have any other questions? Ed?
I know I walked back and forth and walked in late, but Eric said a lot of good information here, and you got to remember, what separates our good teams from just our other teams is a group of guys that are not just 9 on the field, but 1 at the table keeping score, and 1 behind the plate is an umpire. If your team doesn't have an umpire, you need to get one. There's nothing more embarrassing than showing up, at least for me, who tries to have the umpire, tries to have a scorekeeper, shows up, and the other team says, well, we'll umpire the other side when we're in the field. That's not showing the people the way the game's supposed to be played. The umpire is your narrator for the fans. He's your policeman to keep the game in line. I know when I umpire, I've had other guys offer on my team to umpire. I said, no, I'd rather do it because it's your job to keep that game in order. And if guys start getting froggy with each other, you're putting on the show. people are watching you, and if they see a bad product, they're not gonna come back and see it again. And what you've said here, Eric, is all great stuff.
Well,
Nice
thank you,
job.
thank you. And I appreciate everybody's patience. I don't get to speak like this too often. People don't, I have the face for radio and the voice for newspapers, so.
You're good, Red.
Good job.
So I guess that's it.
All right.
You're fortunate to have that homespun zane gray drawl there in front